Welcome to the Vocal Lab podcast with your hosts Shelby Rollins and Jason Catrone, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note. Welcome to today's podcast. Hey, Shelby.
Hey, Jason.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. We have a mutual friend today.
We do.
More your friend because you've known him longer, but
way more my friend.
he and I have swam in and out of same circles all our lives, but I don't think we've ever had coffee together one-on-one. I don't think so, no.
But we're wet with the same water.
That's
sort of a weird saying.
I don't know. I just went with the swimming.
Yeah.
Well, and you're hearing now from Rick
Set him up.
Seibold.
Hey.
Rick and I go way back. I mean, I literally think I've known you half my life.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild. I
Yeah.
feel old.
Yeah.
Because you're from Florida originally?
No. From North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, but we just had mutual friends, and we both lived in New York City at the same time.
Yep. Go way back, way back. In fact, I think I met you in North Carolina, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Probably did. But we went to the same church in New York City when we lived there. And that was where I knew you before. You were one of my only friends, or acquaintances probably more so, when I moved to New York.
Yeah.
But we just got reconnected when we lived in the same city and had a lot of the same friends. And so back then, and this was like, I lived in New York from 2005 to 2010, and you were there from when?
2005 to 2008. It's only 3 years.
Okay. So when we met, you were starting to write songs. I mean, you were writing songs before you moved to New York, but probably in college. Did you
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I moved to New York City because I heard that there was this cool kind of like, indie artist community there, and people were, playing in the cool clubs like Rockwood and whatever, and I was like, oh, well, this is what I want to do. I want to write songs, and felt like New York City was the place.
Yeah.
No longer think that. But
I mean, same. That's basically why I moved there out of college.
Yeah.
And I didn't. It was funny because when I was graduating college and thinking about what I wanted to do next, my two cities that I was looking at was New York and LA.
Yeah.
I actually came close to moving to LA. And everybody kept going, why don't you move to Nashville? I was like, I don't want to live in Nashville. Because I just felt like Nashville was too normal and suburban, and I wanted to do something very, very different.
Yeah.
And
same.
And that was true. Like, it really was. Obviously, now I love Nashville, and I wouldn't leave Nashville, but I moved to New York. And anyway, so Rick was writing songs. He was one of the people that I knew in New York that really was pursuing songwriting and networking and playing out a lot and had the hustle that I didn't have, because I was there to pursue a career as a singer-songwriter as well, and didn't know anything about the music industry whatsoever at the time. I was like 21 when I moved to New York, and I really didn't have any education on the industry. Of course, it's changed so much in the last 20 years, but gosh, I moved to New York 20 years ago. Oh my gosh. Sorry. had a moment of revelation of how old I am. But anyway, I saw Rick writing song after song and playing the venue after venue and asking all of us to come see his show. And I was doing the same thing, but not on the same hustle level.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, Rick has more hustle than I do to do this. I don't know if I'm going to end up having success because I just don't have the same hustle drive that you had. And you really hustled.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your hustle.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I
York.
hustled in a different industry, I would have made more money. But I watched
Wall
all
Street.
our Wall Street friends, our finance friends in New York City.
We have a lot of those friends.
They have summer homes,
marginal
boats.
amount of hustle.
Yeah,
they had nicer apartments.
Way nicer apartments than we did. Yeah, I mean, I was an athlete my whole life. Like I grew up in a hardworking family. I was like grouting tile and remodeling bathrooms and stuff when I was a kiddo with my parents because they did real estate and. So I learned how to work hard. I was a wrestler throughout high school and college, and I think just that wrestling mentality I've applied to the music industry. And I've got that hustle, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, in New York, I remember rallying people together to do like little songwriting groups and things like that. We do exercises and all that kind of stuff, which I think is a great way to start learning how to write songs. And,
totally. That was like my first co-writing experience, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe second.
Yeah.
I might have done a little in college.
Super fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, having this thing that you're kind of like launching into and then bouncing ideas off of people. And for me, it was like a really great way to foster, you know, my creativity and my gift and try to build my skills and collect people around me that were kind of doing the same thing too.
Yeah. So what made you eventually leave New York and go to, well, you came here first. You were here, right?
I got connected with BMI, which is, one of the rights organizations, and one of their big offices is in New York, and I did a songwriting clinic or like a long thing or something with BMI, and it was like a songwriting thing where like this, you know, hit songwriter took you through 12 weeks of like how to write a song, and you know, write and come in and share your songs and all this kind of stuff. And I was talking to him near the end of it. He was like, look, if you want to be a great songwriter, you need to move to Nashville. That's where like you learn how to write a great song. And I was like, all right, done. That's what I do. You know, because I like at that point I'd seen, you know, I'd had friends that were kind of on tour and stuff like that. I'm like, man, these guys are like slogging it out. They're not making any money. They may be making a little bit of money, but some of them are like wanting to start getting married. And, you know, you've been on the road for like several years now at this point, and it's hard to, it was just, I wanted to do this for my whole life. And I was like, well, I could try to like be the best guitar player in the world, but there's always going to be a better guitar player.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I think I need to learn how to write songs. I think I could see myself doing this for a very long time if I was able to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why I decided to move to Nashville because of that.
Mm-hmm. And so you lived here how long the first
I was
stint?
here for like just short of 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, and I was in town. I was doing the co-writing thing and still trying to figure out like how to make a living. And I don't know. I mean, I was coming up against an industry that was very country and Christian, and I was sort of wanting to do something a little different than that.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to do pop or whatever, and that's what I really loved. Like I was the kid that would run home and watch TRL.
Yes.
Whenever I got home, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Have you seen that documentary that just came out?
No.
On I think it's on Prime. After we film, I'll show it to you. But it's all about TRL, the
awesome.
boy bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how that was the thing you did.
Yeah.
You ran home after school to watch it.
Yeah.
Every day.
What were the top 10 videos today?
Yeah, totally. I loved all that stuff. I just have always loved pop culture. So LA was like an obvious move for me. And yeah, I spent 14 years out there. I guess to like sort of fast forward how I ended up figuring out how to make a living. You know, I was like doing the co-writing thing here. I met some people. I ended up like getting a song on a record with a guy that won American Idol. This guy, Lee DeWise.
Oh, I remember him.
You remember him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, he's probably like the least big American Idol winner at that time. But, like some of the other ones were huge. But
right.
Anyway, so I got a song on his record, and then this music supervisor heard it, and he was managing a couple artists. And he was like, hey, I think you should like work with a couple of these people. And I ended up working like with one of those guys, and we wrote like a couple songs that got synced like crazy. And that music supervisor was really helpful in being like, hey, take this out, do this, try this, you know, like think about it like this, approach it like this. And it's sort of like, for the first time, I started to make some decent money in the music industry by, you know, getting songs licensed for ads and promos and whatever. I mean, some of those ads or some of those songs got licensed like just tons and tons of times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like it was like every year for 6 or 7 years, one of those songs was in an ad.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
So that really sort of changed my life when I, you know, met that guy and then sort of launched into doing sync licensing. From there, I ended up like getting picked up by a licensing rep, and then off to the races. You know, I've been ever since. So.
Yeah. Now you're a big producer.
Yeah.
And so, over the course, especially from my perspective of knowing you for that long, I've seen the sort of the evolution of your career going from like I'm a singer songwriter.
Yeah.
Out there to try to perform to now always still a songwriter.
Yeah.
Like that's still always a big part of what you do even today, but like also producing, and you've had massive producer credits as well. So where did production start to enter the storyline?
Well, production, I kind of got the bug because in college, I met this guy named Scott Cash. He's a part of this band called We the Kingdom. He's been nominated for a few Grammys. His brother is a big producer here in town named Ed Cash. You know, Ed is a Grammy winner, worked with huge people. And, you know, I think Scott had like snagged some of Ed's gear out of his garage or something and like set up a studio in his like, you know, in his basement in college or whatever. And his roommate and my roommate were brothers. And so we ended up meeting my sophomore year at school.
Gotcha.
And I just like would see Scott making records. Like he had a band and I was like, man, this is the coolest thing. And like, I remember my mom tells the story. I don't really remember it, but you know, it lines up for sure. I came to Nashville with Scott and we like visited Ed, and Ed was like working his PJs or something all day long. And my mom's like, yeah, you came back and you were like, Ed's like working his PJs all day long. He gets to do what he wants, like making music. He was like, you just thought that was the coolest thing. And I still think it's the coolest thing. Right? It still is the most awesome
Make
thing.
Make music in your PJs.
You know? Like just having the ability to do that. I mean, I was like just about to show up here in my PJs today. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I just, I got the bug, I guess, just from working with Scott, and we, you know, remained friends for a really long time. And
yeah,
you know, I was writing songs, trying to figure out how to produce them or how to get them like done. And I didn't have a record deal. I didn't have like, you know, a whole bunch of money. So I just was like, well, I got to learn how to make, you know, records on my own. I just got to learn how to produce these things out.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like a necessity.
Yes, did Scott show you the ropes essentially of?
Yeah, I mean, I learned a bunch from him.
Yeah.
You know, the first DAW I worked on was Nuendo way back, and that was what they were working on. So I learned a bunch from him, and I borrowed his computer for like, you know, several months at one point. I think whenever they were on tour, and yeah, so I just, you know, that's where I learned where I cut my teeth on it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just figured it out.
Yeah, and now to me, it's like the thing I love to do the most.
It's pretty.
That's what I was going to ask. So production is like your first love at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in a base of songwriting.
Yeah,
like you've got to be able to, you got to understand song structure really well. You got to really understand how to write a great song. I heard Greg Wells one time, who's a really big producer and someone I look up to, say that oftentimes if the song is right, the production takes care of itself. And it's usually the case.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if I'm like really slogging it out with the production, it's like, well, if the song was just amazing, the thing will produce itself, man. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to do is get out of the way of it, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings up a question from in my head immediately, like in today's current climate of music, where I say often like production is king in most cases, right? It's not really the vocal.
Yeah.
It is, but it's not. You know, production has become such a valuable part of, again, not that it hasn't always been, but there's just so much focus on the production and producers. Like we know almost every producer today. Yeah. Without looking for them, right? Yeah. Used to you had to read the credits, find them, have to really be in a production to want to even know who they were. Yeah. So in today's culture where there's just thousands of songs dropped every day, and there aren't that many great songs. Yeah. But the production can make a really good song, right?
Or a bad song.
Or a bad song
pretty good.
Yeah, that way. So my question to you is like, how do you navigate that space on the daily, like just mentally? Because your world, you're hearing all this stuff and you have to be like, what is happening out here? Like, does it bother you? Does it encourage you? Do you just throw it out?
Man, so much comes up with what you just said. So I think that everything is song dependent. Some songs are very production heavy, and their production, like the thing to it is the production, and that's what makes it amazing. Yeah. Sometimes it is the vocal. Sometimes, you know, I guess that's just it. It's just like either the production or the vocal. But for me,
or a catchy hook.
Yeah, right? Like a hook, like the song, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes it's not the best singer, but you've got like the song is just incredible. Yeah. It's got to be emotion based. To me, I always am sensitive to how am I feeling emotionally when I'm listening to this. You know, the vocal is the number one thing. It's the most important thing, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. So yeah, the production has to serve the vocal, but the vocal has to serve the song, and sometimes those things interchange a little bit, because, well, you know, just the timbre or the tone or whatever you use on the song, you know, like Katy Perry, Teenage Dream is a good example. How she starts out kind of light on the song, and then she kind of progresses into a more like full voice thing or whatever. You know, so I think like the approach is really important, but yeah, at the end of the day, it is the song. Like a great song, you know, will last beyond all of us. Happy birthday, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like something anybody can sing, and you know, so I don't know. It's just got to be emotion based for me, man. Like the the production's got to pull on me in some kind of way. It's got to make me move, whether it's a sad emotional thing. I've got to like feel it, in my heart. I've got to, if it's an upbeat thing, it's got to really kind of move me. there has to be something interesting about it that grabs my ear in a way that makes me want to pay attention.
Tell us about when you were really getting in your feet wet in production. What was probably your first big opportunity as a producer in terms of projects of notoriety and things like that? What was probably the thing that really was a catalyst for things moving forward for you?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've sort of had this journey where like I don't have massive hit songs, but I've been able to make a living in the music industry by sync licensing has sort of been the way that I've been able to find.
Yeah, you've had songs on huge TV shows.
Yeah,
like Grey's Anatomy.
Hundreds, all of them. Yeah. And, ads for Google, Ford, AT&T, Reebok, Peloton, like a ton of stuff like that. So, I think the first kind of big things were some of those sync licensing placements.
Yeah.
But I've worked on big records like for Bethel Music and, people like that in the church world and stuff like that too. So.
And you've won some pretty significant awards.
Yeah, I won some Dove Awards and things like that.
I love he says it like no big deal. Yeah, I won a few Dove Awards.
But I mean, I
Grammy noms, right? Don't you?
No, I never had a Grammy nomination.
Oh, I thought you did.
No.
Oh well. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, look, I think that to me, sync licensing has been it's one of those things that have just like it saved my life. It saved my career in the music industry because I've been able to make a living and refine my skills and become good at what I do. And still earn a living doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, man, so many people I knew in LA, and I'm sure, people we knew, whatever. Like, I had a friend that was like 1 year waiting tables at the VMAs, and then the next year he was nominated. It's like
that's crazy.
There's like no middle class in the music industry.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's really true.
To pop songwriters, like there's 300 people that work on those records or something, and then that's it. So it's either feast or it's famine. And even the people that are feasting are not feasting unless you have a big radio single. I mean, I was like talking to a guy, this is maybe a month or two ago. He's like, man, last year I had 1 billion streams and my CSAC check was $8,000.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So as a songwriter, it's really hard to cut
streams.
it.
Yeah, wow. that I mean, the death of physical product has changed the game so much.
Absolutely. I mean, eons ago, I knew a lady in New York who had a couple Celine Dion cuts and those probably made her, $1 million bucks, on just one of those would have, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to, I try to figure out, okay, how can I provide value to the market? As a songwriter, it's very, very difficult to create something as purely a songwriter that is, I don't know, the market is not returning enough money to do that right now. There's just very, very few people, even like right now in Nashville, a lot of these people are like signing pub deals for $1,000 a month, and it still takes.
You can't even pay your bills on a normal pub deal right now.
I was talking to like
they
one
all
of the
have
label
to have second
guys.
Jobs.
Yeah, totally. I was talking to one of the label guys, and he was like, "Yeah, it still takes us like 3 to 5 years to even recoup that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, how do you do it?" Like, well, we're trying to figure it out. They got to have a hit.
Yeah.
Or you've got to, or sync licensing. Which is its own puzzle. But it's a genre-based thing that I think you can learn, just like it's country or Christian or whatever the other genre, rock, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all those have their set of tools and set of words that make those, genres work. Like things you can say, things you can't. Sync is exactly the same way. And I just took it upon myself. I'm like, okay, well, I'm starting to see open doors here. This is something that the market's returning money for what I'm doing. I'm going to run through this door, and just continue to like, try to become better at it and surrounding myself with people who build out my strengths. Where I'm weak, I want people who are strong. Like I was a singer-songwriter, I wasn't the best vocalist. So I'm going to surround myself with really great vocalists, people who are, just great at singing. So, and then I can help, like, I understand the sync box as far as like, what words to say and lyrics and all that kind of stuff. So I can help kind of, fill that in. And then just try to fill my, circle with other people that are, incredible at whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. And you've always had such a diverse circle. Like you're one of those people who you're a mutual friend to so many people. Like you're kind of a connector friend. I've noticed over the years. We have obviously a ton of mutual friends, you and I.
Yeah.
But like I know I'll meet random people that know you.
Yeah.
You know, you're just sort of one of those people that has done such a brilliant job of connecting yourself to so many different types of people groups, skill sets. And I think it's that way that you've sharpened your skill and worked it to your advantage of it's the hustle. It's like kind of coming back to the like Rick I saw singing that song Mary back on stage at Rockwood or wherever you would sing it. And I just look at you and be like, dang, he's got hustle, but you still do. And it served you really well and has kind of gotten you to that place where you've diversified your skill set really well, I think, in a way that a lot of musicians don't. And they go, it's like you got to encourage people to go all in on the thing that they're great at.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, and this is a hard tension to hold as an artist, is like you also have to diversify because then you have to become more valuable to people. And it's a brilliant way to make money because a lot of times just being good at one thing is not enough to make money.
I think that's a really valid point is a young artist being willing to try new things and do new things and diversify.
Yeah.
Most want to
Keep
do
learning.
one thing and just be the artist or just be the
Yeah.
influencer, whatever. Yes, you do keep learning. You do diversify. You hustle. You have to hustle. You have to network. Even if you're not good at it, you got to learn to connect with people. And I know networking can have like a negative connotation to it because people see some people be slimy with it, especially in entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Or they're out to get something or want something. You and I know that well living in LA. Like you could sniff it out right away. Like, oh, this person wants something. You can just know, right?
Yeah.
But you do have to connect and network. You said something cool that I want to point out. You said that you saw an open door and you just ran through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not what you'd ever thought it would be. That was kind of coaching for me and you, right? Like I never really ever thought about coaching, but you know, our mentor saw that gift in me and Shelby, you know him as well. And so that was something that in the ups and downs of me doing music has been a sustaining thread through my musical career. And that was an open door I walked through. And it never ends. Look at Snoop and Martha. They're so diversified. They're so brilliant, and they're bigger names and
they're like
checks
best friends
than they've ever dreamed of before.
Right. Yeah.
In the latter stages of their career and lives, actually. And it's like that's not giving up. That's always in the hustle, and it's always being open to go through a door you never thought was there.
Yeah.
And connecting with people.
Yeah.
That is the key to success in this business.
Yeah.
It's relationships. And you always were good at that. And, you know, the whole point of networking, I remember I've literally, in rooms you were never inside of, Rick, I've talked about you as like, I had this friend in New York. You know,
I mean, like,
was
can't
so
tell you the
good.
amount of times I heard his name in LA. Like, I'll be,
probably.
you know Rick Seibold? Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows Rick Seibold.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, yeah, my friend Rick, who was like doing the same thing I was doing, but had way more traction because he was really good at like networking, and I had such a hard time with it. And my mindset about it was all whack. Also.
Yeah, well,
but I don't think you ever looked at it that way.
You know, I just try to build relationships with people, and I like people, so I
I like people, okay? But I had a hard time because I had too much ego attached to it because it was about how I looked.
Yeah.
And I don't want to appear slimy, so I'm going to bow out.
Yeah.
Instead of what I think you've kind of harped on a little bit is you wanted to learn, you wanted to surround yourself with people who are better than you, and so you were intentional to build relationships that way.
Yeah.
Which is actually not as much about you. It's about just becoming greater at
Well, you have to take the you out of
giving
it.
the gift.
I've never walked into a room that I can remember. I know this is a big statement, but I've never walked into a room to just meet people and thought about me. I just walk in to talk to people.
Right.
It doesn't mean I've not walked in rooms at times and been insecure, like, oh gosh, I don't
Yeah.
look as good as all these people here, or something like that, right?
Sure.
There's moments of insecurity may arise, but I've never walked into a room like feeling the pressure of me. Because thankfully my dad taught me well of just how to connect with people in a room.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to any of that. Is like who cares what the people think? They're gonna think it anyway.
Right. That's something I've learned as I've gotten older. But did you ever feel like as you were developing relationships and sort of expanding your network, did you ever think I'm networking?
No, I mean, I wanted to connect with other creatives and people who are into the same stuff as I was.
Yeah.
But, I think that at this point in my life, I think I've learned to even take that a step further where now it's how can I provide value
exactly.
to people?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that to the extent that you're able to make a living, especially in the music industry, is how can you provide value to people? And I remember being in LA and somebody who runs a really big publishing company now was telling me, like, you got to sort of hone in on what it is that you do well. Like, are you a melody person? Are you like is it this particular thing? Like
top liners.
Yeah, like
right.
I remember Timbaland went to Kanye or Kanye went to Timbaland for like a kick drum in one of his songs. He's like, I was at the club and it just like wasn't knocking or whatever. And so like it was like a Jay-Z song or something like that. And so he like went for just the kick drum sound. Like he knew the guy that knew what this thing needed,
Yeah.
And so Timbaland has a skill set that people value. For me, I try to provide value to music supervisors. Like I understand what they need, what they want. And so I create songs that music supervisors are in charge of really big budgets.
Right.
It's like one of those few places where there is a lot of money. Still, right?
Yeah.
An episode might have a $250,000 budget. Well, like if I can, provide value to this person who, has access to that, then I'm going to try to do it,
Totally. Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think about it like that. And like, so all that goes down to like, what are you strong at? What are you good at? How can you provide, value to people around you who are also in the music industry? Like, for me, it's like, I know I can provide production value. I understand sync. I have relationships in that industry, I have relationships when it comes to, labels and managers and all those kind of things too. I mean, so there's like a lot that I can, as my career has progressed, I've built all of that. But even if you're just starting out, what do you think is your thing that you're best at? If you're not good at anything, well, like find something to like really like focus on and try to become good at, so that you can take that and present that to someone and be like, hey, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
What if we teamed up together?
Right.
And then like when you start combining forces like that, amazing things.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Yeah.
Success never happens in a vacuum or in isolation.
No. It makes me think it has nothing to do with the music, but I saw the other day the story of the Crumble Cookie guys. Do you know this?
No.
Mm-mm.
They're cousins, I think. They just liked cookies and wanted to do something different. They didn't like their jobs. They were two different like fields of work. And so they just, what you're saying, they're like, how do we make the best cookie?
Yeah.
And they spent not long, I think it was like maybe a year or two trying to figure out how to make this cookie. This was in 2017. That company's worth $1.8 billion today.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the fastest growing like little chains in the country. They're getting ready to go international.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? But that same thing is true in any scenario.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Like get good at a thing
and I love
and
that,
expand from there.
That it's the idea of adding value, right? Like I think even culturally, we somewhat live in a time where there's this sense of entitlement because of maybe I've paid my dues.
Oh my gosh! Can I tell you a story?
Well, in a second you can.
I'm always interrupting her.
You are interrupting all of us.
But you're a talker, so I have to jump in when I can.
Same. Pot and kettle right here.
Right.
Okay. Anyway. The entitlement concept, right? Like Nashville's known as like the 10-year town. I'm sure several big cities are kind of the same. That like it takes 10 years of like grinding away before you have that big breakthrough moment of true success or whatever. And then I think there's people that have truly worked that long and maybe don't see it. And there's either bitterness or, I'm not saying this is everywhere you go, but there is a sense of like, I've paid my dues. Where's my success? Well, they're looking at it wrong. It's like you're thinking of like what you're entitled to versus how you can give and add value back. And that's truly where the key is unlocked to opportunity. Now you can tell your story.
Well, you just said the word entitled, and that threw me because last night I was driving to the gym and it was like 5:30, so it's dark. It was misting rain, and I get down like about a mile from here, going towards downtown, you know, in Lebanon on the 4 lanes there, and the traffic's just stopped, and I can't see around the corner. It never does that. So I'm like, there has to be an accident. Then I see vehicles coming. Well, after about 10, 15 minutes, traffic starts to move a little bit, and it's inching. I still can't really see what's in front. I'm also talking to a friend on the phone. I get a little further. I can see the lights. I can see it's an accident. There might be 6 cars in front of me. And all of a sudden, next to me, I see this lady, and she's got her window down, and she's just yelling at me. And I roll the window down, and I'm like, what? She's like, you're just so blanky blank entitled. Like, your time's more important than mine. Can you not learn to get behind me? And I'm like, I mean, my blood pressure went through the roof. Because first of all, I'm like, this is entitlement? You're the one pushing that on me. Like, what are you even talking about? Yeah. I'm like, this is an accident.
I'm just sitting here in traffic, lady.
Yeah. I was literally 2 cars behind her, too, before I got right beside her. So I just looked at her and said, you know what? It's Thanksgiving week. I'm thankful that we got to have this time together, and that's not us in that accident. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And just rolled up my window, and she just kept cussing me.
That's funny.
But I mean, this is like, yikes. Right? But like what we're saying here is actually bigger than just the music business.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It is like, cultural. This is life. It applies to everything.
Yeah.
All these big
right. Like give me what I'm due. Give me what I'm due rather than like, well, how about God forbid anything be merit based.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
and I think that's the whole point.
Are you adding value?
That's the whole point of what he's brought up this whole episode is like, have value, have worth, have a talent, get good at it, have something worth merit that you can add to culture. I mean, don't give up, hustle, don't feel entitled. You don't have to walk into a room like, what can I get out of this? It's like, no, you said it best. What can I bring to this room tonight? When I go into a room to meet people, I'm always like, just trying to think, who can I connect who to? Because I love to connect people, too, right? I get so much joy just that I know I made someone connect. And it's like, I bet you and I both have made so many deals for people happen on the back end of introducing them. It's like, if there was a way to get 2% of this whole, right? We'd be on a boat. We'd be on a boat doing this podcast, right? But it's not why we do it. And these are the things I love about life and talking about it.
Well, I mean, there's 100,000, I hear, songs a day getting uploaded to Spotify. The market, you aren't entitled to anything when it comes to Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to break through, the only way to do it is to become really, really excellent at what it is that you do, and then surround yourself with other people who are really, really excellent. It's the only way to break through the noise.
Yeah.
So true.
Totally.
So true. That's money right there.
How do you feel like as the evolution of your career has gone on over the years, do you feel like 20 years ago in New York, you were looking at 2024, 20 years into the future, thinking, I hope I'm doing this someday. And if not, if you are doing it, if you aren't doing what you hoped you were going to do back then, how have you reframed success into like where you are right now?
I would have probably charted out a different path 20 years ago, which is fine. I mean, I think that thing eventually got me to here, and I really like my life. I mean, I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody, with my coach, and I was like, if I had just unlimited money, I would still be doing the same thing with the same hustle. There wouldn't be much that I would change. So I think that, I don't know, I like being at home. I like family. I like community. And so I like to be around those people. And like being a producer, I get to stay at home. I don't have to, hit the road. And like, I don't want to be on the road. I mean, I toured a bit when I was like in my 20s, and I hated it, man. I just like,
that's not for everybody.
I was bored. You'd like roll up on the bus to like the middle of nowhere, and then you eat like crappy food the entire tour and whatever. And like some people like just love it, and that's how they come alive, and that's great. That's not me, and I learned that, so
it's good to know those things.
Totally. I mean, when I was a kid, I would have told you like, oh, I want to be the next Coldplay or something like that. But like, would I even like that? No, probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Life happens as it's supposed to. When you engage it. Right? When you engage it, your life happens as it's supposed to. And I think that's that's a hard pill to swallow when you're younger.
Yeah.
But it's one of the sweetest elixirs you can ever taste.
Yeah.
Ooh,
When you know
so
it.
poetic sounding.
Wow, what did I just pull out of my...
No.
I think you got to continue to like...
No, it's true.
Yeah, try to grow and learn and
always.
The best investment that you can make is on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you could buy all the plugins
Or a lottery
and
ticket that wins. The
yeah.
Powerball.
Yeah, if you knew the numbers, that's
Right?
the best. Just bet on. For me, I was like, I got to bet on myself. It's like all I got. So
true.
I'm gonna hustle. I'm gonna like work hard, and I think that's what you can do, man. Just like continue to learn, continue to grow. I mean, the internet's like an incredible place where you can, watch podcasts like this and soak up all this knowledge that like I wish I had had when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
Right?
So that's one of the reasons we started the podcast.
Yeah.
What's something you're working on right now that's exciting to you? It's coming up. Or
I
what you're doing right
have.
now?
I am like neck deep in a ton of songs. I have a few artist projects that I'm a part of. A band called 310, a band called Sun Heat, and then another group called Carry the Throne. And I've got I'm spinning like multiple plates with all of those things, and I'm like really excited about the music that I'm making. And it's
and
like,
these are groups that are
cool.
primarily like sync groups, right?
They're artists.
They're
that,
not like bands that are playing live and touring.
Sometimes we'll play live. It just sort of depends on the situation, but more so not. But they're artists that respect what happens in sync.
Yeah,
That's the way I put it. I mean,
that's a great way to put it.
like Carry the Throne will probably be on on your favorite sports pump up playlist or things like that. I mean, those songs have been on like ESPN and NBC football and like
cool.
they're the walkout songs for the Phillies and for a bunch of different sports teams and all that
really
kind
cool.
of stuff. And
Yeah.
some of those other things have different sounds or whatever. Part of like the value thing is I've tried to figure out, okay, what doesn't the market have?
Yeah. Holes in the market are a great place to look.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what you do when people are trying to like figure out what products to make and they're trying to be an entrepreneur and they're like they go dig on SEO and figure out how, like what keywords are trending and then like exactly.
Yeah.
Or like on Amazon, like where can I like add a product that the market isn't totally flooded. So I try to do the same thing when it comes to music.
That's really smart. I don't know that anybody's really ever put it that way that I've heard before.
Yeah.
In terms of like trying to add value to the market
Yeah.
place of music. It's usually like what am I inspired by? What kind of is my natural
that's-
authentic flow, which is good, but at the same time,
I'm
not always
creative.
how you make money.
Yeah, I'm a creative, so I can be creative in a whole, bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Like, I think that this is what I think. I don't approach the music business from like an egocentric place where it's like a lot of people are like, this is what I want to say, and this is like my music, and this is like what's this is my true self, and all that, and all that's fine and good. And sometimes that lines up with what the market wants.
Sure.
And the market will return accolades and fans and money and all that kind of stuff. It's just rare when that happens. I think
That's like a Billie Eilish,
yeah,
right?
totally.
Something that was the timing was right for that to happen.
Yeah, she was just doing what she did,
Yeah.
and then like just like
Right.
the whole world got thrown at her. I bet that's like, I don't know. I bet Taylor Swift's approach is, I don't know, a little different.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
And that she is calculated, and she's like, this is
Very
what will work.
calculated,
And when I approach making music, I try to find something that I can be creative in and authentic in and be creative, whatever. But I look at the market like I'm not going to do a singer-songwriter songs, and send those to music supervisors because there's like millions of people that do that,
Right.
and they're better than me. Like I'm not going to be Billy Joel or Elton John or like they did it the best that can be done.
Sure.
But like what rock band sits around and is like, oh, I want to make like pump up sports music that's like with kind of general like broad lyrics and like most people don't do that. Like most
You're infusing your creative side with strategy and intentionality.
It's the music business. So it's half music, it's half
business. That's right.
Exactly.
It's to like neglect one is to
you're going to be broke forever unless it's that one moment in time that just was meant to be that, right?
Yeah.
You've got to take both.
Yeah.
You
have to be creative, but you have to be strategic. You have to think about, how to provide value. Where's there a gap in the market? How can I fill that?
Yeah.
When I got going in sync, it was like there weren't a lot of people doing sync. There were very few people making rock. It was like there's very few people doing hip hop. Like most, supervisors would always complain about it. It's like hip hop is tough because a lot of it's explicit, has samples, there's 15 writers on it. That's really hard from a supervisor standpoint to clear that stuff. Because then you got to go clear the writers, the publishers, and the master owners, on all that stuff. It's just a ton of paper. It's like a ton of paperwork, right? Yeah. So if like I can be a one-stop shop where you could get, all the stuff that's not explicit, that fits what you're looking for and all of that, then it's easy, man. So I'm providing a huge value to these people that control these big budgets,
What would be your parting wisdom to somebody who's thinking about moving maybe into more of the sync world, or just looking for, maybe if you're, let me reframe the question altogether. What would you tell your younger self now, I won't tell the world how old you are, but 20 years ago in New York, what would you have told if you were to meet you in the future?
Oh, man. Be less precious about stuff. There are a couple opportunities early on that I could have let songs go, and given something a shot. It would have built my skills. I think it was like held things a little bit too tightly.
You mean like letting somebody cut your song that you didn't want?
Letting somebody cut a song, letting somebody produce out a song, and maybe they wanted some publishing or something like that to do or whatever. Like, dude, those things, I've written thousands of songs since.
Yeah.
But that could have been a really valuable experience for me to have, nowadays it's like awesome for like people that want to get into sync. Like you can go to tunefind.com and look and see like what every song is on every show. And if you're like, oh, I want a song Grey's Anatomy, like go look up the people who are on Grey's Anatomy, go listen to the songs. Whenever supervisors send out briefs and things like that, they're always like, here's the songs we like, and they're like all the songs that they use in the show, whatever. So like go listen to them, study that stuff, find the artist. I mean, I found a collaborator that I've worked with a ton of times, and we've had songs on Grey's Anatomy and like big trailers and all this kind of stuff, because I was like on TuneFind and I like saw her name and I listened to her music. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I think we could collaborate well together. Sent her an email. I was like, hey, this is who I am. Like this is what I've done. I've got representation here. Like, would love to work together. And like, we have like done, some great songs together. I mean, she's played at the Ryman. She played a couple of my songs at the Ryman, like,
That's
a few months ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, the worst somebody can say is no.
Totally. Yeah.
And who cares?
But that's it. You got to surround yourself with people who are good, who can, which is what I've tried to do. Like find really good people and then provide value to them.
Yeah.
Round out people who are good to round out your skill set. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Gotta
Such
spin
wisdom.
the plates.
Spin those plates.
Which would be a great guest on our podcast, a plate spinner.
Sure. You go find that person. Sounds like I hear like circus music in the background.
It's going to totally happen. I'm not going to tell you. We're just next time Rick's on, he's going to be like...
Rick, where can the people find you and find you, like TuneFind? Should we go to TuneFind?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to find it. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, rickseibold.com. I'm all over socials and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean...
We'll have it posted for you, too, so they find it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, if, people, like, are interested in learning more about how to do what I do, like, reach out to me, I coach people.
That's right, you do. Yes.
Yeah, I have a course. Like, I'm active in mentorship and things like that and love helping out creatives. Like, because I was that broke 20-something-year-old. And
right. Weren't we all?
Yeah.
I love that because sometimes I'll listen to a podcast. I'll be like, gosh, I want to sit down with that person. I would love to talk more about that, about such and such with this person. And people listen when someone is saying, hey, reach out to me. Like, hello.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Find me.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, rickseibold.com.
Generous of your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here with
us.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.